at the labor court. The order seeks the following: that it be declared that all that was done from the 25th to the 28th of July 2028 under the guise of the 11th National Congress to be null and void, thus invalid and be nullified for the compliance with Numsa's constitution. Secondly, it be declared that the resolution to pass at all the 11th National Congress, including nomination and election of the national office bearers, are invalid and no force and effect for want of compliance with the Numsa constitution. Lastly, the point in limit that are raised in relation to the unconstitutional conduct. The union disciplined me through the wrong structures. On the one hand, it claimed I'm no longer a national office bearer and therefore an ordinary member. However, according to the constitution of Numsa, ordinary members are disciplined at the regional level. Yet they've taken me straight to the NEC and now to the Central Committee. This is the procedure for national office bearers. The union claimed that I'm disciplined as the former national office bearer. There's no such a thing in Numsa's constitution as the former national office bearer. I provided a high level of details in my point in limit submission, and this will be made public, like I said earlier on, as it was made available during the Numsa Special Central Committee. All these were dismissed in about an hour or even less than an hour. Like I said earlier on, that I provided them with about 8 case studies, but the decision to not to consider my submission was decided in an hour or even less than an hour without due care or regard for the substance of my submission. All the deliberation on points in limit, I was then asked to provide my submission on my actual appeal. The following are all the grounds of my appeal. And I had to place on record that I proceeded in making my submission under protest and my rights are reserved. Addressing the 3 charges, charge number 1, that is in relation to the gross insubordination by refusing to comply with lawful and reasonable instruction to return the union's motor vehicle, laptop, and the cell phone. The decision to remove all my benefits and or privileges from me goes well established custom and practices within Numsa, where former national office bearers were not handled in the same or similar manner as the majority in the Numsa NEC sought to treat me. I gave the Special Central Committee an example of how the late Comrade Ntlokotse was treated. He was given a Mercedes-Benz house. The second one, it was the late Philip Gaba, who the union gave him a 250,000 and he was given a car. The late Central Guinea, he left the union with 2 vehicles, and the only thing that he retained, it was the laptop. The former National Treasurer of Numsa, Comrade Philip Shigur, he left with 2 Numsa vehicles. I'm only addressing the mechanisms. I also gave them an example of Comrade Christine Olivier, whom the union paid 250,000 towards the settlement of their house, and he was also given the car. I also gave them an example of Comrade Basil, who is still, it will be interesting for the public, including the workers, to know whether that 1.8 billion that is due to the property that he bought from Numsa, whether he did pay that outstanding balance of 1.8 billion, and further to that, to explain where that 450,000 that he paid the deposit to that house, where did he take it from? Basil said I was also given 2 cars of the union. He was also given 250,000. So the reasons, the refusal to treat me in the same way, it's discriminatory, inconsistent, unjust, unfair, and unreasonable. The reasons that are advanced are not even coherent. Basil said, who happened to be the Numsa witnessed during the so-called disciplinary hearing, claimed that you must be a good giver for you to be a beneficiary. What does that good giver imply? Must an individual not have a contrary view to be regarded as a good giver? This is one of the questions that we should be asking ourselves. Another Numsa witness, who is the current veteran secretary of CBA, claimed that my conduct of accepting nomination to the South Congress disqualifies me. While the key decision of the 28th, the 29th of October 2022, it is written, I quote, somewhere upfront that the money the union could be using to buy the token is the money that it has to be used to defend its Congress that he demanded to be nullified at close school. These are some of the reasons advanced by the union, its members, the structure of the union in relation to why am I treated, why am I being discriminated, why am I being inconsistently treated unfairly and unreasonably. I'm now going to address chapter number 2. Chapter number 2 that is related to failure to comply with the unconstitutional duties as a member and an LOB of the union by objecting to the GS deposing of an affidavit. This chart demonstrates how ridiculous it is to charge those defending the interests of our members instead of punishing the corrupt that has betrayed the interest of members at the worst times of their lives. 360 Life provides insurance services, including funeral cover, to Numsa members. Numsa national office bearers were fully aware that as early as 2018, a stream of communications were received, telephone calls, WhatsApp messages, text messages, emails, etc., across all regions, complaining about the poor service of the 360. The Eastern Cape Regional Executive Committee actually wrote to the FSCA and the Prudential Authority to complain on behalf of workers. They are now being charged and some have been unlawfully suspended because of that. Yet, on the 21st of January 2022, the General Secretary, without any decision of the NOBs, deposed an affidavit in the 360 Life curatorship proceeding, in which she said, I quote, Numsa is not aware of complaints by any of its members on any delays in payment or a complete non-payment of their benefit. This was a pure lie. I have consistently called that lie. Above all, the General Secretary lied under oath and therefore committed perjury. I've attached the exchange in our WhatsApp group to illustrate that at no stage where the General Secretary of Ruth was mandated to depose that affidavit on behalf of the union. And the reasons that he's advancing that's his responsibility as the General Secretary, that is not true. The only structure that is having the responsibility to take lawful action, it is the Central Committee. And the ex parte matter was decided by court on the 21st of December 2021, and he deposed an affidavit on the 21st of January 2022. In between, there was no constitutional structure that mandated the General Secretary to depose the affidavit on behalf of the structure. And even including the national office bearers, there was no meeting that took place that mandated IBG to depose that affidavit on behalf of the union. I had a duty to expose this lie because this misrepresentation by IBG made a mock-up of the bad experience of our members, of Numsa members. The real reasons for lying under oath is all about protecting Kanansi, the CEO of the Numsa investment company, which is known for dispersing patronage to Numsa leaders and shop stewards. IBG and his daughter are beneficiaries of this patronage. He cannot deny this fact because there's documentary evidence in this regard contained in the Deloitte report as well as set out in the judgment of the High Court. The documents are shared out there, they were made public. so that members of the public, members can be able to get sense as to how Justice Dipenar made a judgment pertaining to the conduct of the Numsa General Secretary. The birthday, the laptop, the car, Hyundai i20 driven by this daughter, bought by the NIC. Jim's daughter, she's driving a car bought by the Numsa investment company. Some leaders of the region splashing NIC credit cards, buying workers' goods, the JC Bears, the former JC Bears, chairperson of the region, and then now the regional secretary is using the credit cards of a Numsa investment company, buying workers' goods. NIC has become the recruitment agency for family members. The president's brother is working there without declaring to the structure, and he was quick to defend NIC against workers who elected him. As we speak, Ntlokotse now owns about 60% of shares of 369, another subsidiary of NIC. Numsa is now a minority shareholder. Who signed for such a deal? Why it was never brought to the structure? How the employee Ntlokotse did become the majority shareholder of workers' investment wing. Ntlokotse moved the NIC head office to his personal house, and they are now his tenants. They are renting to him. How is that possible? Why such issues were never brought to the structures of India? You see, he refused to pay back the loan, now with interest of about 106 million rands, but he managed to pay 4 directors 95 million, which he personally benefited 55 million. The same Deloitte forensic report, it is clear that Petros Newman was paid fraudulently and nothing is being done about it. The monies that are managed to pay for the bursaries from the state are now used to loan to open businesses that belongs to some of Msibi's family, including himself. There are companies opened using workers' money, and there is no accountability of such monies. During the course of the proceedings, Justice Dipenar identified certain further governance issues. I challenge everyone to go and read the above judgment and to reach a reasonable conclusion as to who has committed misconduct between Ivan Jim, Kandani Sibi, and Ruchirwa, the rest, and myself. Justice Dipenar ruled that the application by Numsa should be dismissed with cost, including the cost of the senior counsel. Alternatively, Numsa's application be scrapped of the role of agency, together with costs, including the cost attended upon the employment of senior counsel. Such matters were never brought to the attention of the union. I submit that the judgment of Justice Dipenar vindicates me, and that Ivan G has not acted in the best interest of Numsa members by lying under oath. Accordingly, if there was anyone to be subjected to the disciplinary hearing for not defending the interest of members, it should be Ivan G, not me. The very heavily convicted leaders now turn around and conspire with others that those defending the interest of members must be dismissed from the union. The only reason that Ivan G and the others went without even being mandated by the structures of the union is to defend their own personal interests. I have a very experience about this issue that the 360 Live did to our members. There's a story of one of our members who happened to who lost his mom, and because of the non-payment of the 360 insurance, he delayed the funeral, and then he realized that after the first delay, he cannot further delay the funeral. He had to repatriate his mom using a trailer. Comrade Malan indicated that they had to drive a late afternoon to Abington so that at least it is becoming cooler as compared to when they are driving during the day. These are some of the experiences that members brought to our attention. Where on earth would the General Secretary, who claimed to be representing the interest of members, when he is deposing an evidence, claimed that he was not aware of complaints that members brought to his attention? So the reasons that I've alluded to, that he was defending his personal interest, that's the long and short of it. I'm now going to address charge number 3. Failure to comply with the constitutional duty as a member and the LOB of the union by campaigning for the position of the President of South. There have been numerous instances in which leaders of Numsa have been shown to misconduct themselves. This includes the activities of the current General Secretary and the Deputy General Secretary and other senior male leaders. None has been disciplined. Yet I, a woman, facing election to a leadership position in our federation, something that would have been a gain for women leadership in the federation, I'm disciplined for accepting the nomination. That in itself, it demonstrates how the Central Committee, the National Executive Committee of Numsa, is so sexist, patriarchal, and misogynist. Number 1, Ivan Jean had no problems to go against the Numsa NEC when he insisted that Zanukolo Waidi contested the constitutive precedence against Mulimadish. No disciplinary action was taken, even against him as an architect of that acting contrary to the constitutional structure, not the caucus that took place in preparation of the South NEC. We don't have the structure in Numsa's constitution as the caucus. Ivan Jean defied the NEC of Numsa, but he was never disciplined when he championed and led against the decision of Numsa that seeks to support the position of Comrade Willie Matich. Comrade Zanukolo Waide was also not disciplined as a result of it. The former First Deputy President, Comrade Ben Kofa, who defied the position of his region, which is now known as the Northern Transvaal, which is then known as the Northern Transvaal region, and now it's Tamanana. He was never disciplined. When Comrade Kutaste contested an Enrich Chiwa, the current president of Numsa, in the Gauteng Provincial Congress of COSATU, no disciplinary action was taken against Comrade Kutaste. Failure to suspend or charge Mbuso Ngubane when he monthly took the 5,000 from his bodyguard. Upon an employee questioning that, he was unfairly dismissed and he took his case to CCMA, where the union was obliged to pay 324,000 as a settlement. Was he ever disciplined? No. He was elevated to the position of the Deputy General Secretary in that bogus Congress. Number 5, failure to suspend or charge the Northern Cape Regional Secretary Andile Sito after revealing the HIV and AIDS status of a female employee in front of other staff members because women are deemed powerless in Numsa. Again, failure to discipline Mbuso Ngubane When we opted out of the Auto National Bargaining Forum collective agreement and acting in collaboration with the employer at Toyota South Africa against Numsa members, this misconduct was contrary to the union policy on centralized bargaining. Was he ever disciplined? No. I asked Ivan G to provide me the minutes of the constitutional structures, which decided who should be the Numsa candidates for the SAFU president. He has been unable to do so. Let me raise something in relation to that. The very same position Ivan Jim presented in that caucus prior to the SAFU National Congress. We never had National Office Bearers meeting to discuss and approve that position. Ivan G sat in his corner, decided that this is the lineup that needs to be presented in that caucus. The very same Ivan G is talking about a democratic centralism. That's not democratic centralism. The only region in that caucus that was mandated according to the principles or the principles of Numsa of a worker control, it was the Western Cape. Western Cape, they had their own local shop judge council that decided on the position and the policies of SAFU. All these 9 regions never had a mandate as to who should contest for the position of the National Office Bearers of SAFU. The very same General Secretary of Numsa came back to say that I acted outside the collective. I acted outside the worker control. What is the worker control? What is the democratic centralism? If Ivan Jim would sit in his corner without even consulting, and even the sad part about this whole thing was that the first day of the SAFU Congress, I had a discussion with the president of the union, indicating how unhappy I was. He echoed the same sentiment that none of the National Office Bearers meeting sat down and had a discussion as to what should be Numsa's attitude towards the SAFU's National Congress. And then I'm being charged of acting outside a democratic centralism. That's not democratic centralism. That's Stalinism. I asked the General Secretary to provide me with the minutes of the constitutional structure, which decided who should be the Numsa candidate for the SAFU president. He was unable to do so. I asked him to tell me the Numsa constitution which bars a member or a shop steward from standing for election if nominated by an affiliate of the federation. He responded, I quote, "As far as I know, no such provision exists." I close quote. Numsa issued official statement congratulating me personally and other elected newly National Office Bearers after the election. The very same thing they congratulated me for, they are now expelling me for that. This is a contradiction. I can see that there's a problem in relation to sound. Okay. I was approached by SAFU affiliates, guided by SAFU's constitution, to stand for the position of the president. My sin was to accept the nomination. That was my sin. Men in this union did exactly the same thing. They were never charged because there's no policy, there's no law in the constitution. The question that we should be asking ourselves is, why am I being charged? I'm going to address the next issue that is in relation to independence of Numsa's historical values. This behavior of paging comrades who hold different views is completely foreign to the illustrious history of tolerance and accommodation of different views in Numsa since 1987. In addition, those who are being paid are those who have pointed out the consistent failure of the Numsa Investment Company to pay back more than 136 million in loans from Numsa subscriptions. These are workers. In addition, those who defend the NIC are those whose allegiance has been bought with credit cards, bags of money, and work as salesperson of funeral and medical benefits. Numsa has a glorious history. It is the history of the building of black trade unions in the most oppressive circumstances. Moreover, we live in a world of union investment companies, which have corrupted union leadership. Such business unionism will be the death of unions. What is on trial today is the culture of the worker control and the true nature of accountability and transparency. Workers must call for forensic audit of the Numsa Investment Company. The lifestyle audits of their leadership are still returned. Workers must call for the lifestyle audit of their leaders, especially us as worker leaders. I'm working for Johnson Mill. My salary is determined. My salary is known by workers of Johnson Mill. If my salary, if my lifestyle does not fit my salary, workers must ask questions. Workers must ask questions of both the national treasurer of Numsa, Mpumzi Makhulu, and the president of Numsa. Numsa is not paying salaries of national office bearers. The only benefits that national office bearers are getting is the car with 4,000 petrol and grocery. And how that grocery you must first buy and submit receipts, meaning that if you don't have money to buy that grocery, you won't be having, you are not going to claim. The question that workers should be asking themselves is, all these worker leaders, whom their salaries is determined by the centralized collective bargaining, their lifestyle, does it suit the salaries that they're getting from Isuzu and Ford? These are some of the questions that workers should start asking their leaders, and they must ask for the lifestyle audit of the leadership of Numsa, including at the level of the regional office bearers, including some of the local office bearers, because they happen to be the beneficiary from the Numsa Investment Company. My legal team is putting their thoughts together about the next course of action, as I believe that my rights are violated in many ways. I will be getting guidance from them. I'm aware that the Numsa is currently appealing the judgment of Mushwan that interdicted that Congress, the judgment of Justice Mushwan that went to an extent of indicating or making a judgment that our suspensions were unlawful. All those 53 workers who were suspended, their suspension was unlawful. On the 15th of August, we are pleading that all media houses, workers, and the public at large, they must follow the judgment. Secondly, I have lodged a section 1581E that is currently before court. It is my hope that the court will issue a date for this matter to be heard soon. The road to reclaim Numsa back, to its tradition is not going to be an easy one. Already, scores of members, officials have been either dismissed or others are facing dismissal. Their theme is to stand against corruption and the death of the worker control principle in the union. We shall soldier on. In conclusion, the purpose of this statement is to clear the distortion which Numsa maliciously chose to advance and to make Numsa members and the public aware of what took place in that Numsa Special Central Committee. I hope all the above clarifies what transpired in the Numsa Special Central Committee. Thank you so much. We are now going to allow questions. Comrades will assist us by taking questions from media houses. Perhaps it will be important that let's start with the questions that are there on Zoom. And then we are going also to respond to questions on our Facebook chat. And then, like I said earlier on, that all the information, the documents that are relied upon, they will be shared with everyone. Can I just get questions from Zoom? Perhaps we can allow any media house, they can raise hands if they want to ask any questions of clarity. For this group. Similarly, there are no questions from the Zoom page. Can we go to the Facebook page?
Facebook page has got a technicality in front.
Okay.
They can check.
Similarly, there are no questions even inside the room here. There are no questions, and I can see, comrades, that there are concerns raised, especially on our Facebook page, that there is a problem in our Facebook page.
There's just comments, but not necessarily questions from the chats.
Okay. Similarly, there are questions. There are just comments on the chart. There are no questions on the chart. Okay. Let me take this opportunity and thank everyone who attended this media briefing. But what we're going to do, comrades, we're going to deal with address the technicality on our Facebook page, and I'm going to read the statement again for the purpose of our members. But those that are joining on Zoom, I think this brings us to the end of our.
There is a question from Ground Up.
Okay, there's a question from Ground Up. Let me just read. It's from Daniel Stein, Ground Up. How will the expulsion affect the office at SAFTU? Okay, there's a question from Ground Up. The comrade is asking, how is the expulsion going to affect my position in SAFTU? The National Office Bearers of SAFTU are meeting on the 20th, and the National Executive Committee will be convened. I will be guided by the decisions taken by the National Executive Committee, but for now, there's nothing that I can say on behalf of SAFTU, but I will be guided by the decision taken by SAFTU.
Ntlokotse from City Press is asking a similar question. How will the expulsion, what will the expulsion mean? Will the expulsion mean that she has to step down as a SAFTU president from Youth 24 or city president rather?
Okay, no, I think that question has been responded to, that I will be guided by the NEC or SAFTU, but for now, there's no decision from SAFTU. Yes.
What is the status of other suspended members? It's again from City President Ntlokotse.
All those who were suspended, the 53 members who were suspended, their suspension was lifted by Justice Mushwana last year. So they are actively participating, although they are facing disciplinary hearing, and some of the officials they are now being expelled as a result of that. But their status, they are now actively participating.
And we have another one again from Daniel Stein. Please clarify on the section 158E that is currently before court.
The section 1518E, it is pertaining, I'm challenging the Congress that took place last year. And among other issues that I'm raising in relation to that Congress is that the court must declare that the Congress that took place on the 25th to the 28th of July must be declared null and void. All the decisions taken in the Congress, including the election of the leadership, must be set aside. We know that that Congress took place while Justice Mushwana has actually intervened that Congress. So in the long and short of it, the 1581E court case, it is pertaining the Congress that took place last year under the auspices of an interdict.
I think that's it. Okay, here's a hand from Kylie too. I think he can unmute himself.
Comrade Kylie too, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, leadership. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, loud and clear, my leader.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello.
We can hear you, Comrade Kylie, to proceed. Proceed, Comrade Kylie, too. Proceed. I think there's a problem with network. It's load shed. We are load shedding, comrades, where we are. Comrade Kylie, did you mind to type your question on chat box? Can you type your question, Comrade Kylie, too? The question? Okay, there's a question from Mocha. The comrade is saying your expulsion is not going to affect negatively the section 158 negatively. Lastly, what is your next step in relation to your expulsion legally? Like I said, comrades, that my legal team are busy gathering their thoughts. I will be guided by them as soon as they've decided on what should be the next possible course of action. But for now, there's no response as to how will I take further or forward my expulsion. I'll be guided by my legal team. Comrade Kayale too? Can you try, my leader? There's a question from Muzifa Kudi. The comrade is saying, what is the role or responsibility of regional leadership as you are no longer a member of the NEC? Is your constituency contacted about the decision? Not yet, my leader. Like I said earlier on, that I'm with the chairperson of the plant, Comrade Daniel Popedi, and also the member of the committee, Comrade Ernest Musweu. The plant has not been consulted on this matter. And maybe just to illustrate how furious members in Johnson Matthey are, because my expulsion in Numsa has actually negatively impacted members in Johnson Matthey, where members were refused even the right for someone who will be interrogating the finances during the Section 189 processes. So this is reality. Workers from Johnson Matthey, who have been the members of these unions, others since from 1987, they were treated bad by the union, the leadership of this union, as a result of my expulsion. To such an extent that when workers were looking forward for their union to be there for them during the difficult time as enshrined by the Numsa's charter and the Numsa's constitution, the union was there. The person who's interrogating the finances of the union even refused even to appoint, even to give us a person who will be dealing with this. So this is reality, comrade, of how the leadership of Numsa are not able to distinguish that now we are dealing with issues that are affecting workers. I mean, more than 550 of workers in Johnson Matthey will soon end of October, others end of January, under January, others next year, they will be unemployed, and their union wanted the most seasoned shop steward not to be present during the Section 189 disciplinary hearing. The question that we should be asking ourselves is, at whose interest is Ivan Jim serving? For him to not even to comment on my request for a postponement for the disciplinary hearing, was he acting on the best interest of workers in Johnson Matthey? I would argue no, because even continuously, he refused the very same workers from Johnson Matthey the right for a fair representation during that Section 189 consultation process. Are there any other questions?
Kayale is back.
Okay, let's check Comrade Kayale too. Comrade Kayale, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Can you hear me, comrade?
Yes, loud and clear, my leader. Proceed.
Yes. Thank you very much, my leader. My question is, why is it so seemingly difficult for the court to rule out the interdicted Congress? Because one, they've uplifted our suspensions before the Congress and said all those who were suspended should join the Congress, and we were not there in our majority, and Congress went on. Therefore, there is an evidence that we were not there. Therefore, why should the court, is it difficult for the court to find out after it has uplifted the unfair suspensions? Then was there any one of those who were unconstitutionally suspended and expelled joined the bogus Congress in Cape Town? 1, 2. Then after those, we were expelled, including myself. All our hearings were held in our absence, but we called ourselves a labor. Therefore, why is it seemingly so difficult to find out what has been ruled? It has happened. by now, because it is still continuing. Suspensions and expulsions are still going on, and that could help a court to define very easy actually what is happening unconstitutionally at Numsa. Can it please be emphasized that here is an evidence of the interdicted Congress? It went on, but those rulings were not followed. It's clearly and it's seemingly easy, but now we have to be expelled even in our companies, because we are now followed even in our companies. They say we are the problems in our companies, of which not we are followed by our regions. Exactly. So can you clear on that, my leader? How can we help the court to find out all those discrepancies so that it easily find out that it has been disrespected in its ruling, that everything was unfairly happened? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Kayaletu. Comrade Kayaletu, like I said, that on the 15th of August, at the level of the Labour Appeals Court, this matter of that interdicted Congress will be given an attention by the panel of judges. And over and above that, we've submitted our documents, we've responded, and we are confident as workers that all information that we supplied, that Congress never followed the prescripts of this the Numsa's constitution. And over and above that, the Section 158 application that we lodged, we've also provided the court with all information that we believe that the judge that will be presiding over this matter will act on the best interest of Numsa members who are victims in this particular process. I mean, it is correct that there are comrades in Sidibeng, our comrades Kayaletu, comrades George. They were expelled last year by their regions, and comrades were, some of them were even expelled in absentia. The disciplinary hearing, I mean, where on earth would the chairperson of the proceedings, because of even their disciplinary hearing, were outsourced to the lawyers, that if an employer happens not to release an employee, because of all of us, before we become shop steward, we are employees. If the employer is arguing that on that particular day, I'm unable to release you to attend the union activities, and the chairperson of the disciplinary proceeding went ahead and decide in an absence of a comrade, Ukayaletu, comrade, Umakanya, and comrade Ukanyi. So you could see that there is a connection in the manner in which all these disciplinary hearings are taking place. And as we speak, comrades, they've appealed because of they were expelled last year, sometimes September, October, and they appealed to the NEC December last year. Until to date, there's no date for the appeal. I was expelled on the 4th to the 6th of May. Quickly, the date of the appeal was issued. I was expelled. And you know, that Central Committee colleagues and comrades that expelled, it only took place within a day. I presented the point in limit. Decisions were taken in less than an hour or 45 minutes. I was given an opportunity to make my representation, where my attorneys, my legal representation, were denied because of the advice that Numsa received from their legal representation. I presented in less than an hour, and the decision was taken to uphold my expulsion. So that on its own, it clearly tells you that that special central committee was just an academic exercise. I mean, if you provide 8 case laws arguing the reasons why I believe that procedural, the manner in which that appeal was taking place, they didn't even see the courtesy of applying the mind. 45 minutes or close to an hour, 45 minutes or less than an hour. The Central Committee has already decided that they didn't consider all those points in limit, and the appeal should proceed. So these are some of the things that workers in Numsa, once they start raising issues of accountability, issues of corruption, maladministration that is happening within the Numsa investment company, where their leaders are refusing point blankly the lifestyle audit. I mean, the Central Committee, I think it's 2018, if not 2019, Western Cape came up with the additional item that there has to be a lifestyle audit, there has to be a forensic investigation conducted. That issue was sent pillar to post to such an extent that it was even thrown out of the window, because the very same leaders of Numsa are the beneficiaries. The lifestyle audit, over and above what Deloitte report would have uncovered, would find more evidence. So these are some of the challenges that workers in Numsa we are confronted with. But Comrade Kayane, to the 15th of August, we are looking forward on the Labour Appeals Court judgment, together with the date that the court will set aside for the 1581. I thank you. Any other question?
There's a question from WhatsApp chat from Comrade Lakitwala to comment on the general state of the union, and in particular the financial status, because in March there were reports of workers not being paid who work for Numsa. And also there was a report from the OCCB department that Numsa was bleeding membership, and in particular in the traditional sectors.
Let me start with the latter part of Numsa bleeding membership. Let alone the section 189 that Numsa is confronted with. Workers are leaving Numsa. I mean, the engineering, the MIBC, 2020, we used to have 116,000 members there. We are now seated at 57,000. 75,000, if I'm not, 75,000. At Motu, MIPCO, we used to have more than 75,000 members there. We now have 57,000 members. Members are exiting Numsa because of reasons, some of the reasons that I've stated above. I mean, workers of Johnson Matthey, they can bear the testimony of what Numsa did to them. And the membership of Numsa is related to the income of the union. If Numsa is bleeding members as a result, in the manner in which it is bleeding members, the likelihood is that even the income that is coming to the union, it is also going down. I mean, we know the money that was spent in that bogus Congress. More than 50 million that was spent in that bogus Congress. Was it necessary? How would I know? Even to take the Congress to the most expensive province, which is Cape Town. And over and above that, there are other creditors. As we speak, we've got letters that we share with members of the public that the lawyers that are representing Numsa members are withdrawing because of non-payment of the legal fees. But Numsa's General Secretary, through the affidavit that he deposed, without being mandated by the structures, there was a punitive judgment against him. He is hell-bent in ensuring that he is fighting tooth and nail. I mean, the legal representatives that were there in the Central Committee, taking these matters, the 15th of August, whereas lawyers are withdrawing and workers are now suffering as a result of that. We've seen in numerous provinces, lawyers writing letters. We can share those letters with members of the public, where the lawyers are indicating that in an absence of non-payment of legal fees, they are unable to pay, to represent workers. So the primary responsibility that we should be asking ourselves is, what is the role of the union? If the union is unable to represent members during the most difficult times, workers in Johnson Bank, workers that are some of them are unfairly expelled by their companies, and the union is not there. Some of the matters are even thrown out of the CCMA because of lack of legal representation. The union is unable. Going to the issue of the salary, yes. Workers, staff members of Numsa in March. And you know the argument that was cited by Numsa, that's not a true reflection. Numsa must come down and be clean and tell members what is happening in the corpus of the union. They are claiming that the reason for the delay of payment is as a result of banks. I mean, ever since staff members of Numsa, they've been utilizing different banks. And to make matters worse, there are workers who were on the same banks. FNB, for an example. Others got paid on the 25th. Others got paid even on the 30th. So the issue of justifying that the delay was because of the bank, it doesn't hold any water. We've got issues of lawyers. So Numsa members must come as closer as possible to their union because of what is currently happening there in Numsa. That's not all. The leadership, the current leadership, bogus leadership of Numsa is not acting on the best interest of its members. I don't know if there are any questions or further questions on the chat box.
It's just comments.
Okay. No, thank you so much. I think this brings us to the end of our media briefing, and we will share the information. It will be available to the media houses for interviews after that. I think there's a decision, there's a question from Umuzi. Does Numsa have the highest decision body makers or only few individuals pursuing their interests? The highest decision-making body in between the Congress is the Central Committee. And believe you me, my expulsion, it was decided by the NEC, not mandated by structures. The decision of the so-called disciplinary hearing was presented in the NEC. And the elites that are sitting in the NEC took the decision on behalf of workers, including the Central Committee. They went there without being mandated by the structures. It is true, Comrade Muzi, that the highest decision-making body of Numsa in between the Congress is the Central Committee. But we've seen the trend, even last year, Numsa is not convening, was not convening its constitutional structures. It was continuously calling special meetings because they know once it's a special meeting, they are not getting a mandate. So I was expelled by the structures. Some of the regions went there without even getting their mandate. They didn't convene their locals, they didn't convene their RC, but they were able to uphold the decision. So I was not expelled by Numsa members. I was expelled by majority of the beneficiaries of the corruption, of the patronage that is being dispensed by the Numsa Investment Company CEO Kandamusi. Are there any other questions? Thank you so much. I think this brings us to the end of our media briefing. I will be available to all media houses for further interviews, and thank you so much for joining. Thank you. Thank you so much.